Have Tim in San Diego.
How's it going, Matt?
Pretty good.
Well, I have two questions that I want to address, and I'll just get right to it. And one of my questions is specifically for you, Matt. But do either of you think that the fear of hell could be considered a good thing when you're talking about someone that's contemplating suicide?
Sure.
That it might stop them?
Sure. And it's like there's a scenario for almost anything where you could think that this could be better than an alternative. My concern is whether or not it's true. And
right.
For dealing with people who are suicidal is, well, I'm probably not going to talk about it much because I'm not going to pretend to have any expertise, despite the fact that it has happened. It's kind of like when somebody calls and tells me that they've been in Alcoholics Anonymous for years and they've been sober, because AA is awful. They don't publish their recidivism rates. The method is, there's no way you can demonstrate that the method's reliable, but by and large, there are people who are convinced that it's helped them. I think they've replaced one addiction with another, but if AA is what is keeping you sober, keep going. And for the people who've called in before in the past, to say, if there was no God, I'd be running around killing people, then I want your ass in church. And so if somebody was suicidal and the only thing that was preventing them from doing it was a fear of hell, then yeah, I could say that could be a positive thing. It might be the only thing that allows you to keep helping them to where you might be able to prevent this.
Yeah, I mean, well, there's research looking at highly religious versus non-religious, and there's relatively less suicide because of the prescriptions for suicide. But what about good old-fashioned mental health treatment? I think that would be a better approach than believing in an afterlife that terrifies children and all that kind of stuff.
That's exactly it.
All the side effects of having that. It may be a salve for that, but there are side effects, just like a problematic medication or something.
The challenge I had for years was not demonstrate how a religious untruth can be beneficial. It was demonstrate how a religious truth was necessary. That there's anything that you could accomplish through religion that you couldn't also accomplish through secular means. Because I can lie to somebody. I don't have to give them a fear of hell. I can just say that, what happens after you commit suicide in particular is that you come back and you're a cockroach. And that could, that's just as asinine, but it might be the thing that gets them past it. But in much the same way that we talk about dealing with death, and I'm really happy for organizations like Grief Beyond Belief and others that are changing the way secular people get a chance to learn and understand this. I think religion has poisoned our minds and our culture about death, and that if people understood that death is an eventual part of life, and that we get, as far as we can tell, exactly one shot at life, that would fundamentally change both how we treat each other prior to death. It would change the grieving process. It would change the fictions that we tell ourselves. Tracy, who called in earlier, who is still struggling with the fact that she might not meet her fiance in an afterlife, that's a powerful idea to hang on to. But if instead of having been fed this lie of an afterlife from the beginning, if we had, dealt with this is what life is, and sometimes it's going to end, and here's how you can prepare yourself and how you can view this, it's never going to make it easy. But there are ways to make it better without, I think, lying.
Sure. Ernest Becker, he's an American anthropologist, wrote this book called Denial of Death. We're in such a state of denial in this culture in particular. We shield ourselves from it. And so it's so foreign to us when it happens, because we say, in fact, death doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. There's in the afterlife, you're going to meet with all your relatives and angels playing harp. So don't worry about it. So in a way, that creates more fear of it, because you're saying, look, we can't accept it. We have to invent this. And so, yeah, I think being honest about what happens when you die is probably a better approach.
There's another lie that ties in with this as well, which is something that Rush Limbaugh and others have promoted when it comes to issues like climate change. well, God put us here as stewards of the earth. God's going to come back. There's absolutely nothing, if that story is true, if that narrative is true, that God's going to come back and rapture people, and then there's nothing we can do to destroy the planet. Everything's going to happen according to God's plan. So we don't need to worry about carbon emissions. We don't need to worry about pollution. We don't need to worry about any of these other things. And there's mountains of problems with that. But what it is it is a lie that could be used to get somebody to do one thing that we would find beneficial, and yet 100 things that are detrimental. But on that note,
gotcha.
On that note, Tim, I got to move on. We got to get to one last call before we're done here today. I appreciate your time, though.
I can't ask one more question for just you.
Okay, go.
I told my mother yesterday that the next girl I date, religion is going to be a deal breaker for me. And my parents are Christian, and they want to see me with a Christian girl. My last girlfriend was Catholic. The last girlfriend before that was Jewish. But I'm kind of sick of wanting to fight with people about it or argue with people about it. So for a long time, I just pretend to believe and I go along with it. And I don't think that's the right thing. But my mom was like, well, if you bring an atheist over, like, you know, where's she going to get her moral compass?
From an evaluation of the consequences of her action and the fact that she has to share a planet with a bunch of other people, exercising empathy and actually wanting good results.
Right. And we all have to share this planet together and empathize with each other. And I went home and I looked up secular humanism and, you know, things like that. I don't want to have a relationship with my mom where I tell her and my stepdad the truth that I've been an agnostic for years, but I'm more kind of leaning towards atheism now, having listened to your show for so long.
Yeah.
And you've mentioned on the show that, you know, your relationship with your mom and, you know, people in your family might think that you're doing the work of the devil.
They do.
So how do you go about, you know, having a relationship with your family still?
We focus on the things that we share. The fact that we're family, the fact that we have similar interests, the fact that our lives are intertwined. It's probably, you know, my folks and I disagree on religion. We disagree on politics. We disagree on countless individual issues within politics, but there are still things that we care about and share. Now, I have good visits and interactions with my parents. They love me. I love them. We disagree. We've had, you know, knockdown, drag-out arguments on occasion. And yeah, they think I'm working for Satan, but somehow they've rationalized this. I recognize it. This is their problem, not mine. It is their religion that is standing as the roadblock. They are going to look at it in the opposite way, and I realize that that's the way they're going to look at it. And so we generally don't talk about religion. We have on a couple of rare occasions. But there are, you know, I don't want to use like the cliche, there are more things that unite us than divide us, because in reality, there aren't. My folks and I don't actually have all that much in common other than they're my parents. And so what we're leveraging, I suppose, is our history. The fact that they cared about me, they raised me, they did the best they could. They weren't evil. The fact that they tried to share their beliefs with me wasn't from animosity. It was, they were trying to do the best they could. I don't blame them. I'm not mad at them. I wish they'd be more reasonable, and they wish I'd be more godly. And once things will never go back to normal, but there can be a new normal, and it's not always bad. Greta Christina wrote a book where she interviewed 400 atheists on coming out, and I might get the numbers wrong, but I think of all the people that she interviewed, only one of them actually regretted it. Lots of them had bad experiences that stayed bad, and yet they were fine with it. Some of them had bad experiences that ultimately got better, and much the way that mine did. But only one person said, I really wish I would have never done this, because there's an incredible value in having people love and appreciate you for who you are and not who they hope you are or who you're pretending to be. You're the only one that can make a decision about what's right for you. I know couples who have different views on religion, that with marriages that lasted far longer than mine did, and I was married to an atheist. So, you know, you date who you like, be yourself, figure out whether or not you're comfortable with the consequences. And I would not make a big coming out deal out of it. It would just be, answer honestly, and they're going to ask questions, and then you and your family can sort it out. I know people who've been ostracized by their family, and then I know people who found out that there were other people in their family, including parents, who were pretty much on the same. Dan Barker, parents of ministers, convinced his parents, and now they're atheists. I think that's highly unusual.
Yeah.
Dan is pretty effective, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to just get it off my chest and just tell them the truth, because it's killing me. And I'm sure they have a pretty good idea already that, I haven't been going to church, and, I still take my hat off and close my eyes when we pray at the dinner table, and I'm respectful.
Yeah,
But,
I sit there quietly when they pray too.
As far as hell and heaven and God, I don't know, and that's something I hear you say a lot, and I don't know. They could be real. They might not. But I've been on the fence for so long. I just don't want my stepdad and my mom to be like, oh, well, you're going to hell, and your kids are going to hell, and your wife's going to hell, because I don't agree with what they believe in. But I guess you're right. At the end of the day, it's what they believe in. I don't want to change their minds. I just want them to accept me still.
Yep. And I got no guarantees for you in any direction.
They may or may not.
Yeah.
But you have to do what's right for you.
And we wish you well, Tim.
At some point, but yeah, I'll let you take care of the call. Thanks.
And by all means, when you make a decision, if you decide to do it, call back and let us know how it went.
Yeah.
Okay, I will.
And find a local group in your area.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you're going to need friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks.
Thanks, bye.
All right.